What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a phenomenal night. We are literally 2 days away from the Miami Hurricanes playing Southern Miss Ross. I'm extremely excited. I don't care what the spread is, if we're favored by 25. It doesn't matter. The Miami Hurricanes are playing football this coming Saturday at noon, and we have a very special guest coming on backstage. Ross, why don't you introduce him to the viewers watching?
We have David Eckert. He is the Southern Miss reporter for the Hattiesburg American, and he's also a part of the USA Today South region. So we're very very blessed to have him on here because he knows Southern Miss football. There's no doubt about it.
How we doing, guys? I'm excited to be here.
David, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Man, how excited are you that college football is back? I mean, I just have more energy when college football is just it's going on, and I can watch any game that's on TV. I honestly could. I mean, David, I just want to hear your perspective of just college football being back and how excited you are. You're taking on the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, it's the best part of the year, right? And just for writers, right? You just get that jolt, you're at practice, you're talking to coaches, you're going to the games. It's like you almost don't have time to come up for air, but it's like a good feeling, it's just fun. So yeah, I'm definitely with you there, man.
David, talking about Southern Miss, you guys, week one, you went through a crazy game. I don't wish a 4 overtime game against anyone, any opponent. Like, I would never want to go through that. Southern Miss came up short against Liberty in a 4 overtime game. I would love to hear your thoughts about that first game because that's a really that's a crazy game for your first week into college football.
Yeah, my instant game story, and did not appreciate that. But they played well. Again, and I know that I'm speaking mostly to Miami fans, but Liberty, kind of at the Group of Five level, is a very good program.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze, say what you want about the other stuff. He's a good football coach. They've won, I think, 26 games the last 3 years. They played better than I thought they would. They turned it over 5 times, which, and ultimately cost them the game, including 2 fumbles inside the 3. So, that game definitely could have gone much, much differently. But again, I think that's kind of how most Southern Miss fans and Southern Miss affiliated people feel about it is, played well, massive missed opportunity for a statement win.
For Miami Hurricanes fans, when you mention Southern Miss, the first thing that comes to the top of their heads, in my opinion, is Frank Gore Jr.
Yep.
He's the son of one of the best running backs to ever play, for the Miami Hurricanes. He should be an NFL Hall of Fame running back as well, Frank Gore. And he's actually doing very well at Southern Miss.
Yeah.
Can you touch up on Frank Gore Jr. and what he brings to the table as a running back, just playing for Southern Miss and what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a big guy, and he's not blessed with amazing, speed, but he gets it done. He's got really good short area quickness. He's surprisingly difficult to tackle for, a guy who, I think he's 5'9". I don't have his measurements in front of me. He's got that low center of gravity. And he's really versatile too, which I don't know how much you guys saw of Southern Miss's game last week, but Frank Gore Jr. he's their Wildcat quarterback. And they played Wildcat, exclusively after halftime. So lots of quarterback from him. He did that a bunch last year toward the end of the season as well. They call it the superback, so you guys will probably hear that phrase a lot. But yeah, great player, really important figure for them too, as Will Hall kind of tries to build this thing. But yeah, really one of the centerpieces of the program.
And I'm kind of curious, I know you got Frank Gore Jr. leading the way. Who would be the the running back 2 there? Who would be the guy getting the majority of backup catches?
It's kind of a hot topic. Not really a hot topic. I guess there's not really a clear answer to the question. If you go according to the depth chart, it's going to be Dejon Richard. He's a good player. Another guy that you'll see a lot of is Antavius Willis. He kind of splits those Wildcat snaps with Frank, and I think you'll see a lot of the Wildcat this weekend, if I had to guess. So you'll be seeing a lot of him as well.
You're mentioning Wildcat quite a bit, and that makes me want to bring up the topic of quarterback. What's your opinion on quarterback? Why are you guys possibly leaning on that Wildcat more? Is there some issues there? What's going on at the QB spot?
Yeah, I should mention Janari Dean as well. I left him out, the running back. But, yeah, the quarterback, their starting quarterback got injured in the second quarter of the Liberty game. He took a late hit, like crown of the helmet right to the chin. So it was not a good situation. He is, they haven't specifically ruled him out. He didn't really practice all that much Tuesday or Wednesday. He did some stuff on the side, but I'd be surprised if he plays. Will Hall, the Southern Miss head coach, kind of said it's going to be the Superbacks and it's going to be Zach Wilkie, who's a true freshman quarterback. Real talented kid. Hasn't played any college football yet. There's not really a throw on the field that he can't make. He's got decent feet as well, but he's a freshman. You know how freshman quarterbacks are. So, we'll see what he's got. It's going to be a heck of a first test for him on the road against this kind of team.
David, you mentioned you guys are going to be, you lost your quarterback in the second half of the football game versus Liberty. You're going to be starting a true freshman. I honestly think, your head coach, Will Hall, he's probably going to lean on Frank Gore Jr. a lot in this football game. You mentioned the Wildcat offense, and I think an X factor in this game is really Frank Gore Jr. taking over the offense. In my opinion, we're not the strongest at linebacker play primarily, and I think that can be a difference in this football game. Are there other X factors to look out for? I know you named a couple receivers that maybe, Canes fans should just keep an eye out for this game that can make it fairly close and can be a close fight.
Yeah, if we're talking about offense, Jason Brownlee is a guy that could be playing high major college football if he wanted to, Power 5 football. He had that opportunity this winter. You look at Jacarius Caston is a guy in the slot who, Will Hall kind of thought was one of the best wide receivers in Conference USA last year before they made the move to the Sun Belt. And then on defense, you look at a guy like Malik Shorts, Eric Scott, two really physical, really experienced defensive backs. Dalen Gill, an Ole Miss transfer at middle linebacker, who I really like. I've kind of been banging that drum. He had a really good camp, in my opinion. Avery Hobbs, Jack backer, looked real good against Liberty. So they've got some players, specifically on defense. They've got some athletes. Whether that translates into this being a close game, I'm not sure. But the cupboard is not empty. That's for sure.
How do you think Southern Miss is coming into this game? Because my perspective is, you went 4 overtimes against Liberty. That in my opinion, it's a heartbreaking loss. There's a lot of energy spent, over Liberty. Do you think Southern Miss comes into this game a little bit hungover from that game, or do they come rejuvenated? Like, you're playing the 15th ranked Miami Hurricanes at their stadium. I'm curious how they show up to this game, to be honest, because any team that suffers from a heartbreaking loss, it's very rare that you see them ready to go from the first quarter for the next opponent. I feel like it always kind of it affects the team going into their next opponent from a tough loss.
Yeah, it's a great question. Will Hall is one of the most determinedly positive people you will ever meet in your life. Like, this man is just, he wants to smile. He wants to say what's good, and I do think that rubs off a little bit. I had a long conversation with Frank Gore Jr. On Tuesday for a story, and I asked him what he's expecting. He said, "I'm expecting a win. I'm manifesting a win." So that's I think, again, this is a program that wants to be positive. I think they're in general pleased with how they played, even though they didn't win the game. They surprised me with the way they played, and they kind of dropped the game that they could have won. So it's a good question. I don't really have a firm answer, I guess, but I guess my gut says that they'll probably be okay morale-wise, just because of how they run the program, but definitely something to watch out for, no doubt.
Are there any impact transfers that have come in? Anyone showing up on offense or defense that Miami fans should be checking out?
A lot, yeah. They had 10 Division I transfers. They played last season. They went 3-9. They had 62 scholarship players. So they went out of their way to, reload. They had to. They didn't have any choice. So on offense, Janari Dean's kind of the big one. You look on defense, there's a ton of new names on the defensive line. And that's kind of been like a rotation. Quentin Bevins, Armandus Cooley, Jalen Williams. I'm sure I'm missing some here. Dalen Gill, Tylen Knight at Star. He's kind of been splitting time with Cameron Harrell. Jay Stanley. There's a lot of new faces here. So I think they're kind of figuring out who fits where a little bit. Again, like if you look at their depth chart, the defensive line, like they don't list the starter. They're still competing for all three of those spots. So it's lots of new names. I'm still getting familiar with them even. So definitely a lot to take in.
I'm a guy who likes to talk about the trenches. And before we move on to any the other topics, kind of curious about your opinion on the offensive line for Southern Miss. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What can we expect?
Well, they were dreadful last season, just really, really bad. I know PFF grades are kind of like hit or miss, but I think they were bottom 10 in both run and pass blocking efficiency. And they brought a lot of those guys back. Their starting 5 offensive linemen are all returnees, but they brought in a new offensive line coach in Sam Gregg from Liberty, funnily enough. And I thought they looked really good against Liberty. They've got a little size. They looked pretty cohesive. They gave up 1 sack, and that was in a wildcat play that just kind of busted. And I think they averaged, 4.8 yards per rush. Don't quote me on that, but that's what my brain wants to say. And that's with everybody knowing that they're running the ball because they ran the wildcat the entire second half. So I think they did pretty well. Obviously, the Miami, what Miami is going to present to them is way, way different. So I don't know if they'll be up to that. We'll see. But a good start to the season for them, I would say.
David, what's kind of like your perspective, I guess, and maybe the fans of Southern Miss? What's their emotions going into this game? Obviously, the spread is 25 points. Mario Cristobal is the new head coach at Miami. Is this, in their eyes, a David versus Goliath battle? I mean, it is a 25-point spread, in my opinion. If Southern Miss does upset Miami, that would be a huge upset in college football. But I mean, does the fan base, does the community of Southern Miss kind of come in like, hey, we have a chance, or are they saying like, hey, we're probably not going to last after the second half per se? I'm curious what the perspective is.
Yeah.
For Miss.
I don't think you will ever get them to say that they don't have a chance. That's just kind of like antithetical to what they're about. I do think there is an acknowledgement that, look, this might be a little bit beyond where they are as a program at this point. This is, again, second year head coach, still figuring out the quarterback position, still, trying to find some cohesiveness on the offensive line. So I think there's some optimism that the defense can keep them in the game. It's a very good defense. Played really well against Liberty. They have a really, really, really good defensive coordinator in Austin Armstrong, just a stud. And so I do think there's some optimism there. But again, nobody around the program doesn't acknowledge what a challenge this is. You know what I mean?
What do you think are going to be some key factors for Southern Miss to, potentially win this football game or be in a dogfight with Miami?
Yeah. Number one, do not turn the ball over. Again, 5 turnovers. If you have 2 in this game, that probably takes you out of the running. Mike, no, they're not. Just to answer your question, I see it on the screen here. Looking at some of the other things, I think they have to find a way to have an explosive play or two. I think they only had 3, by definition, explosive plays against Liberty. That's probably not going to get it done. I don't think you're going to dink and dunk your way down the field against this Miami defense. You're probably going to have a big play or two somehow. And then again on defense, can you make this uncomfortable for the Miami offense? And they certainly did that against Liberty. Austin Armstrong is a big fan of blitzing. He'll show some very creative blitz packages. And he blitzes, I think, close to 50% of the time against Liberty. So can you force Miami into some mistakes that way? I guess might be my 3 keys to this one.
Who are the top pass rushers on the team currently?
It's a good question. I think you look at a guy like Avery Havis had a really good pass rushing day. I don't know if he actually had a sack, but he was really effective at getting into the backfield. Santrell Latham had a big sack that forced a fumble. And then you look at a guy like Josh Carr, who is kind of overcoming some injury problems. They've got some pass rushers. Those would probably be the guys that I would list. I really don't have, again, just like you guys, a strong knowledge of what these transfers are at this point. A lot of them, I just watched their first game. So I'm interested to see if they can find a couple of more. But again, so much of their defensive front right now is new that I'm still kind of trying to figure it out myself.
How do you feel about your DBs versus Tyler Van Dyke and the Miami pass catchers?
Yeah, I think Southern Miss considers its defensive backs, one of, if not the strongest unit on its roster. You look at the starters back there. Natron Brooks, redshirt junior, Malik Shorts, redshirt junior, Jay Stanley Jr., Eric Scott Sr., Tylen Knight and Cameron Harrell are both seniors. So they have a ton of experience there. They like to play. They like to play 5 defensive backs. So you're going to see a lot of nickel. So they didn't really ever get beat over the top against Liberty that I can remember. I think once they had a drop that bailed them out. So again, but look, guys, I mean, these are next level athletes that they're going to be playing against relative to what they're used to. So whether that holds up Saturday, I don't know. But in general, that's the strength of their team.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this game, David, because I don't know if you have looked this up yet, but like Miami gave up 5 plays against Bethune-Cookman for over 20 yards. Like for me as a Miami Hurricanes fan, like that annoys me. Because like Bethune-Cookman is a glorified spring game, in my opinion. We did win by 57, but 5 plays for 20 yards. It's like, hey, your defense, like, what's going on here? So that does annoy me, and I honestly think Frank Gore Jr. I think he's going to have a good game against Miami. I think that's going to be their forefront of the offense to have success in this football game. Um, I guess what do you think are your expectations going into this game as someone covering Southern Miss, and how this game probably will play out?
I think what Southern Miss is going to try to do is they're going to try to kill the clock on offense. They're going to use that super back, and just run the ball, and hope that their defense can keep them in it. I think that's the formula, and hopefully, Frank Gore breaks a big one. And also, I got asked about the Heat on another podcast as well. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Southern Mississippi Heat, but it's hot here too, guys. Like, it might be a little bit hotter there, but that's nothing crazy. Ultimately, I think this is a game that Miami wins comfortably. I think the spread that Vegas has on this one is a good spread. I think they did well with that. Because I think Southern Miss is going to take some steps to shorten this game by the way that they play offense. But yeah, I mean, I'm expecting again, a lot of Wildcat.
Yeah,
a team that's going to rely on its defense, and probably in the end a comfortable win for Miami.
Yeah, and I agree on the Heat comment, David. We played Michigan State this past year. I mean, it's Michigan State. They're in East Lansing, Michigan. They beat us by 21 in the Heat, and it was I was there. So I don't necessarily think the Heat has any advantage. I mean, Clemson, South Carolina, a few years ago beat us 58-0 at home. So the weather has, honestly, if you're ready to play, you're ready to play, in my opinion. The weather has nothing to do with it because, like you said, the Heat, it's everywhere. If you're well conditioned as a football team, you'll be ready to go. Anything else that we didn't cover, David, that you just want to present to the Miami Hurricanes about this Southern Miss team? I understand it's their second year under Coach Will Hall, and to me, my outside perspective is Southern Miss as a program is a competitive football team.
Yeah.
They have a good football team. They've shown it at the at the level they play in. I mean, I wouldn't go into this game as talking down to them, whatever the spread is. I mean, they've always had a competitive team. So, just anything else you want to provide the Canes fans listening?
Yeah, I mean, this is a rebuilding Southern Miss team still. Will Hall is in his second season. His first season, I mean, to me, is borderline a wash because of, again, the scholarship situation that I mentioned, and they used about 47 quarterbacks because everybody kept getting hurt. So, this to me is kind of like, I feel like I'm learning about what this program is going to be. And this is going to be a really instructive game for me because Southern Miss is going to play an opponent like this every year. That's kind of where I'm at. I think it's going to be it's an experienced team too. I should mention that. I think Bill Connolly of ESPN did his experience rankings, however he calculates that, and I think Southern Miss was in the top 10. So maybe that helps them, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But again, still a program coming out of transition, but I think, in my opinion, still in transition. Maybe 6 weeks from now they won't be, but this is a team, in my opinion, that's going to get better as the year goes on, as they figure out their quarterback situation, as they grow more cohesive with the pieces that they added. But you never know. That's what we love about college football, right? Yeah, surprises happen all the time. So,
kind of curious. What do Southern Miss fans think about Canes fans?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have an answer for it, but I think this is again, just the Southern Miss mindset. Like, they love to be underdogs. They almost take that disrespect and bottle it up and use it as fuel because this is a state where there are 2 SEC schools. And, so again, there is a little bit of that like little guy fight with these guys. So I think if you're interacting with Southern Miss fans online, you'll probably see some of that. But it's a great bunch, really optimistic bunch. I haven't really talked to anybody about what they think of Miami fans, to totally tell you the truth. But I think your interactions with Southern Miss fans, if you're at the game, will probably be pretty positive, because that's been my experience with them.
And this one kind of goes into the history of Southern Miss here, but I'm kind of curious, what's Brett Favre's legacy at Southern Miss by fans? What kind of legacy does he hold there?
Yeah, I mean, he's the GOAT. But again, it's gotten a little bit complicated recently. Brett's having some legal problems but as far as a football player, he's the guy, 100%.
All right, David. Well, the Miami Hurricanes are taking on Southern Miss 2 days, Saturday at noon. I'll be honest, David, it's not going to be a hostile environment. I'm going to be at the game. It's going to be insanely hot.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, I'll be honest, like the heat in Miami, the humidity is the key, the X factor. Like I've been to Dubai, I've been to Dallas, Texas, I've been to Thailand, David. The heat in Miami is just it's insane. I've been everywhere in the world. So it's gonna be really hot. What's your prediction on this game? I have mine. We'll shoot it over to Ross after. Curious about yours.
Sure. So the one that I wrote in my prediction that's going to publish tomorrow morning is 35-10, I think, if memory serves. And I'll stick with that. I think the line, like I said, it's a good line. I think it's going to be, I don't think Southern Miss is going to score a ton of points. I think the way that they manage the clock might help them stay in this game. But again, if they turn the ball over like they did last week, it's not going to be that close. It'll be ugly.
Yeah, I think you're going to keep it in the spread. It did worry me when you said that their starting quarterback did get injured and they're relying on a true freshman. You're going to really rely on kind of Frank Gore Jr. taking snaps in the quarterback role in the Wildcat offense, super back offense. Because I feel like that repetitiveness will carry. It may come out new in the beginning of the game, but the second half you make adjustments and then you take care of business. I think Miami wins. I think you're in the ballpark. I think 40-10. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami's up 14-3 in the first half, where it's proximity, where in the sense like Southern Miss is still in the game. It's still reachable. But I think the second half Miami takes off. I think Miami should take care of business. And respectfully, David, if Miami does lose to Southern Miss, I would be disgusted by it. If we were favored by 25, and I'd make a post-game rant. I mean, that's what happens when you're favored by 25, right? We should take care of business on my end, on Miami's end. It means we're favored by 25. So, no, I think Miami wins 40-10, and, we move on to Texas A&M.
I've had a chance to review a little bit of film and seen some strengths, seen some weaknesses, and I believe that this offense can put up points on this defense. I really do, especially in the pass game. Even though I know the DBs are their pride and joy, I think TBD is he's just such an incredible quarterback, and I think that this offensive coordinator, Gads, has got some tricks up his sleeve. I see us winning this game 46-13.
Mike and David, we got a good offense.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a good offense, and we have a good coaching staff. Jason Taylor's our analyst. Charlie Shaw's coaching linebackers. Josh Gaddis.
Ed Reed.
Ed Reed's around there. We don't know what he does, but he's just on the sideline.
He's an analyst, I guess.
Yeah. We got a good staff. So, we're looking forward to a good season. And, I think the big game for us is Texas A&M. So maybe Southern Miss comes in and, we get a little shell shock because we're looking forward to the next week. You never know.
That happens.
Yeah, we'll see, guys. It'll be fun either way.
But David, we greatly appreciate your time tonight, just coming on the show and just talking about the game. And I appreciate your honesty and your opinion on the game. as well. And I hope it's a good football game. And I wish the best of luck to Southern Miss moving forward.
Beautiful, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, David, thank you again. And always, all about the U. Go Canes, guys. Take care.
Okay.